What up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Of course, we are here to talk about the huge, giant, mammoth news that we got today from Jackson Cantwell, number one overall recruit in America. Much to the surprise of many of us watching, picks the Miami Hurricanes. Pleasantly surprised, obviously, but this has been a bit of a roller coaster over recruitment the last couple of weeks. Kind of a Miami-Georgia battle. It was Miami, if you remember, Miami was the favorite up until 2 weeks ago. I want to say April 30th was the original announcement date. Then he pushes it back to May 13th, which is today. And he wanted to go take another look at Georgia. He wanted to take an official visit there. I think it was an unofficial visit he took. His teammate quarterback who was being recruited by Georgia, he wanted to visit with him. So it wasn't looking good. And then all of a sudden, first of all, today, I was planning a totally different kind of show. I was actually going to do portal grades today, okay? So I had to scrap that completely. And when I started getting the news coming in, you know, of course, you got the what started to turn everybody's head, get everybody's attention earlier today. I want to say the announcement was at 3:45, so this is probably about 1 p.m. that Pete Nakos of On3, who lately has been on fire with his predictions, he's been like kind of the new Steve Wiltfong, that if he drops a prediction, he's usually right. He drops a commitment or a prediction for Jackson Cantwell going to Miami or picking Miami today. I saw that, and immediately I was like, don't get your hopes up. Don't get your hopes up too high. Yes, that is for him to do that the day of. That's kind of crazy. That was very telling, but let's see what happens. Then a little while later, maybe 10, 15 minutes later, I don't know how long it was, but then Steve Wiltfong, very respected writer in the high school recruiting space, also drops a prediction, basically retweeting Pete Nakos' prediction, saying, yeah, I second that. I think he's going to Miami. Then, again, I was trying to keep myself from getting excited, but I'll be honest, I was starting to get a little excited. That was around 1:30, 1:45 in the afternoon. So for the next couple hours, you know, it's now we wait. That's all we can do is wait. So then commitment time comes. I tune into the stream. I watch it live. He picks Miami. And he didn't play any games. He didn't like fake us out, put one hat on and then throw it and then put another one on. No, he didn't do any of that. He went straight for the Miami hat, put it on, had to take it off because it didn't fit. He's a big dude. And then unzips his sweater and reveals a Miami t-shirt. So he knew it wasn't one of these that he changed his mind at the podium. No. The whole time it was Miami. So Jackson Cantwell, number one overall player, offensive tackle, 6'7", listed at 325 pounds, from Nixa, Missouri, very, very small town in Missouri, ends up picking the Canes. That, again, we shouldn't be so surprised, but I think we were all, you know, we've all been hurt too many times as fans. We saw the way it was trending the last couple of weeks, all the love he was showing Georgia on social media. And we just kind of resigned ourselves to the fact that, oh, yeah, it looks like he's going to Georgia. All right, cool. So I think Cane fans have kind of accepted that until these predictions dropped today. And sure enough, this shocking flip. Again, it shouldn't be a shock, but it was. It was to some of us, including myself. Again, pleasantly surprised. I'm very happy that it happened. But a little bit more about Jackson Cantwell if you're not familiar with him as a player. Again, 6'7", 325. He probably has more room on his frame to continue to add weight and strength. He's already freakishly strong. He's a state champion shot putter and discus thrower. So he is very involved in track, and not just very involved in track and field. He's a state champion in that. So when he's not playing football, he's winning championships in that. He's the son of two Olympians, 2 track and field Olympians. And, so he comes from great stock, obviously. And it's kind of funny because, like, the narrative that they were trying to push leading into these last few days, I don't know if you guys remember the article a few days back. I think it was last week, Wednesday or Thursday. An article gets put out. I want to say it was by On3. I could be wrong on that, though. On3 or 24/7, one of the two, that Miami is offering the most sizable, the most lucrative NIL package to Jackson Cantwell, rumored to be around $2 million. Whether or not that number is true, we don't know. We may never know for sure. You know how it is, Miami being a private school. There's a whole thing about Carson Beck being paid $4 million. Who knows? It could be less than that. It could be more than that. We don't know. They don't have to release that information. But I'm sure the bag was sizable that was offered to him. But here's the thing. He's the number 1 player in the country. No matter where he goes, all the hats on that table, Miami, Ohio State, Georgia, and Oregon, all of them, all 4 of them were prepared to offer a pretty big bag, if you will. Maybe Georgia, Georgia, I hear, they don't, them being as established, and Ohio State, the same thing. They don't have to offer such a bag up front. They don't have to use NIL on the front end, like, a team like Miami, who's on the rise, trying to build something, needs to. But it was going to be big no matter where he went. So I don't believe that NIL was the only reason he chose Miami. Of course, anybody outside of Miami is going to think that. I don't care what they think, because it's not true. Did it factor into the decision? Of course it did. But what's a few extra couple $100,000 here and there if you're going to come here and get developed by the best in the game at that position? Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal have sent Penei Sewell to the NFL in the first round. They recruited and partially developed Jackson Powers Johnson. I know Oregon fans will say, no, he was developed by Oregon. Okay, maybe that last year or two he was developed by Oregon. But remember, he was recruited and developed year 1 and I think year 2 as well by Coach Mirabal when they were still at Oregon. So that's another one, Jackson Powers Johnson, first rounder. CC Maui Noah, projected to go in the first round. That's 3 right there. And then you got the mid-rounders. You got the day 2 and day 3 guys like Jalen Rivers, for example, just when I think it was in the 5th round. Mario Cristobal has proven time and time again that he can send offensive linemen. He can recruit you, develop you, and send you to the NFL where you will make a lot of money. He's proven it. And I think this young man, he knew that, made note of that, and that factored into his decision. Norman, yes, thank you for the donation. It is a fantastic day to be a Cane, always. When you land the number 1 recruit in the country, it always is. I'm trying to remember the last time we, in this, at least according to the 24/7 rankings, because that's kind of the standard now that everybody goes by, in the 24/7 recruit rating era, the only one I can remember, the only time I can remember that we landed the number 1 overall player was DJ Williams back in 2000. Obviously, legend, one of the all-time greats at linebacker here in Miami. First round pick, had a solid NFL career. I think that's the last time I remember us getting the number 1 guy. I know we had Bryce Brown for a little bit, but then he didn't sign. There was a whole drama there. I think he was the number 1 player on some, maybe on Rivals he was number 1, but whatever. I think this is the first time since DJ that we've gotten the number 1 guy. And from what I'm hearing, Jackson Cantwell is like, he's that type of kid that, like, a really solid, loyal kid that he's not gonna flip flop now. Whoever he's picking, that's who he's staying with. So hopefully it remains that way. Juan Manuel saying Kyle Wright, Chantrell Henderson. Yeah, Chantrell Henderson, I don't remember if he was the number 1 overall pick. I know he was He was a 5-star offensive lineman. I know that. And he committed initially to USC, and then Randy Shannon later flipped him. Number one in his class, but slipped to top 10. Okay, yeah. He was very, very high up there. I remember that. I couldn't remember if he was number one. Kyle Wright. Yeah, you're right. I think Kyle Wright was number one overall, like regardless of position. I was thinking he's number one quarterback, but yeah, I think he was number one player in the country. I think you're right about that. Didn't pan out for him, obviously. Chantrell Henderson, when he was healthy and, he had some off the field stuff, but when he was on the field, Chantrell Henderson was dominant. I remember that. I remember when we had him and Eric Flowers, when they were both on the field at the same time. Duke Johnson had all day, all the room in the world to run. Rock Boys football. Yes. Enjoyed having them on last week. Big get for the Canes. Let's go. Yes. Yes. That is an understatement, sir. Thank you. Let's see. What did I miss? John, who would be our starting lineup for 2026? Including McCoy staying. Don't believe Mario loses all his starters. Still have hope Bell comes back. There is incentive for him to come back and go higher. Yeah, let's talk about that. Offensive line for next year. So you possibly lose all 5 starters next year. Markel Bell will be draft eligible. He will make a lot of money. You can't teach 6'9". You can't teach that wingspan, and you can't teach that being 350, 360 pounds and moving well the way he does. Is he like a finished product? No. He's a little rough around the edges still. I think if he gets his hands on you, it's game over. You're not getting past him. But, he's got to work on his agility a little bit. But Markel Bell's a guy that could certainly be a late riser and sneak into the first round. At least second round, I would think. Then you got Maui Noah, first rounder. He's gone for sure. You got Inez Cooper. That's an interesting one to watch. He's an NFL guard, in my opinion, but he's one that, like you're saying here, he and Bell with NIL, there's incentive for them to stay that one extra year to continue getting developed, continue getting polished up and refined and ready for the next level. Because you see guys like Javion Cohen, Matt Lee. They had a chance to go and they went. They were later round picks, but they're on NFL rosters now, making good salaries, certainly more than I make. So, can't complain there. They have NFL jobs, but I'm sure, when you're one of those late round interior linemen, I'm sure, another year under Coach Mirabal to really refine your game and maybe go up an extra round, I think would be worth it. If I'm those two guys, Bell and Inez Cooper, I would consider it heavily. But worst case scenario, you lose both of them. And then who does that leave? That leaves Bumgardner. God, I cannot remember his name. The center we just got. Hang on. I have 247 pulled up here. Let me see. Alex, where is he? Wow, Brockenmeyer. Not even close. Good job, John. James Brockermeyer. Yeah, you have him. I think he only has 1 year left. So he's going to go. And I think that's it for the starters. So yeah, you possibly could lose all 5. You're at the very least losing 3. If you can keep either Bell or Cooper, that would be insanely huge. Because let's say you keep Bell. Let's say he's still a little raw. You keep him 1 more year. Okay. You got him. You got Jackson Cantwell possibly on the other side. If he can add a little weight to his, upper body and, he gets himself right, I think I would be surprised if Jackson Cantwell's not a day 1 starter at right tackle. Then on the inside, you're probably going to have to portal in another center. Unless SJ, I think he's a little small, but I think SJ after a year, he might be ready. Maybe Nino, he could be ready by then to be center. And then you got all these guys like the Juan Manayas, you got Tommy Kinsler back there, he would start, I feel like, on 80% of the teams out there. Tommy Kinsler, he's another guy that's just freaking massive. You got Matthew McCoy, who who's here. You got Pancake still. You know, he can continue his development, maybe end up as an interior guy. So you have some guys in-house that are next in line so that by next year they come in and start. They're new starters. They haven't played together, but they haven't played together in actual games, but they've been in the program and they've been around each other. So that does help. So you have some guys in-house you can supplement with. Maybe go get a portal center again. Maybe go get a portal guard if somebody really talented is available. But now you add Cantwell and you have a possible day one starter anchoring one of the tackle spots. I feel much better. I feel much better about that. And if you don't keep Bell around, okay, then you go and find the best portal left tackle you can find. Or hopefully, I don't know. You know, maybe Kinsler's ready to step in there. Maybe Pancake keeps developing. We'll see. That'll be an interesting thing to continue to monitor. But back to Jackson Cantwell really quick. I love the fact that he really shot down that narrative of him bag chasing. Because I was saying earlier, the article that came out that we were offering him the most lucrative deal. And I think we were, but you know, it being $2 million, again, that might just be a rumor. I don't know if that's true. Haven't been able to confirm it. But you know, people are going to talk, and I'm almost 100% positive that was Georgia kind of leaking that to kind of create that narrative. Jackson didn't say that. He kind of criticized the media themselves a little bit for putting that narrative out there. They didn't like, you know, he and his camp did not like that. I think that may have backfired a bit and played in our favor. In fact, I kind of had that feeling when they put it out there. I'm like, Jackson doesn't seem like the kind of kid that's going to want to be portrayed that way. And if you listen to him today, if you listen to his interviews and the way he's, you know, how well spoken he is and how he really took into account development, and also he referenced the relationships with the coaches he has. I think he even mentioned that Coach Mirabal was there at the ceremony with him, like in the front row watching. So he has a great, strong relationship with the coaching staff already. He doesn't strike me as the kind of kid, after all that, like, you know, raised by highly disciplined, you know, ultra winner parents, that he doesn't strike me as just like the bag chasing type. You know what I'm saying? Again, was money a factor? Sure. It was a factor, not the only one. Cantwell's dad looks like he can play. Yeah, I saw somebody on Twitter saying, yeah, can we get him as our fourth D tackle? That, you know, round out that room, that'd be great. Yeah, his dad was like just a boulder of muscle, like scary looking. Hope he starts to recruit other big fish now that he's in the boat. Yeah, let's talk about that next, because what does getting the number one guy mean now for the recruitment of these other big fish, these other big targets? And look at this trend we're setting now. We go and get the number one quarterback in the portal last year, Cam Ward. He goes from being around a projected fourth round pick to not just a first rounder, the number one player in the draft, making tens of millions of dollars with the Tennessee Titans. So number one guy, number one overall pick, right? Then we get the number one quarterback in the portal this cycle. That was Carson Beck, at least the number one QB in the portal at the time. Now we get the number one player in the country in this recruiting class. Starting to notice a trend. So you get him. Let's look at the commitment list really quick. You get him. And then you got, so that puts us already in the top 10 in the composite ranking. We're number 9. So he's your first 5-star recruit. Then you got Jordan Campbell, who's a stud linebacker looking really good in practice for Northwestern. Camden Portis, legacy. Really, really good blue chip defensive back. Jalen Seatbelt Waters, one of the best cornerbacks, one of the best pure cover corners in the nation. And you can never have too much of that. Darion Coleman, who is listed still as a 3-star on 24/7, which is insane, but that's going to change. On the 24/7 composite, he is a 4-star recruit rated at a .9227. So he's not like even on the back end of the 4 stars. He's like up there right around 200 overall. Darion Coleman will probably finish, I would imagine, at least top 150, maybe even a top 100 player by the time it's all said and done. And then after that, you got Ben Congdon, you got Javian Mallory, John Tavius Wyman, somebody I'm excited about, Joel Irvin, someone I'm really excited about, and the coaches are too. They think they found a diamond in the rough there. And then you got big JJ Sparks rounding it out at 6'4", 300 pounds, the interior lineman from Jacksonville. So that's your commitment list right now. It's 10 guys deep. Definitely going to be going after some big names. And they're kind of doing it the way they normally do it, where they get the foundational guys, the guys that they went out, they saw the tape, they went out and visited them. They did their legwork on these guys, and they really believe in the evaluation. So they went and got them, a lot of those foundational 3-star guys. And then of course you got a handful of blue chippers already. And then you got the blue chipper in Jackson Cantwell. Now is when going into the summer, you're going to see them going after more of those blue chippers. So getting Jackson Cantwell, what does that mean for Calvin Russell? What does that mean for Derek Cooper, Jay Lamar? There's some really nice skill position guys out there that we can go get. Obviously, Calvin Russell is like, of the skill guys, I think is like the prized target that we need to keep at home. I know he's, Syracuse is in a good spot right now for him, but I wouldn't panic. There's a lot of time between now and signing day. I think Miami's going to really work on that, but that could be like them playing the long game. That could be, as Coach Dennis Smith likes to say, it's a marathon, not a sprint. That one could be a little bit more of a marathon, just chipping away. But this is momentum, and I hope they capitalize on it. There's Calvin Russell, who's my number one receiver target. Like, I want him more than anybody, even more than Tristan Keys. You got Derek Cooper, who arguably is the best running back in the country, in my opinion. Another running back I really like. I know they want to keep Derek Cooper at home, and ideally you want that, but man, Jay Lamar just has sick, disgusting speed. I would love a guy like him. Elite players like to be with elite players. Yes, I 100% agree with that. And if you're a running back, especially Derek Cooper or Lamar, you look at that and you're like, man, I am going to have miles of green grass in front of me if this guy's blocking for me. What quarterback from 2027 do you think brings the full Jackson? I'm looking at Colton Nussmeier. That's a good question. I haven't done a ton of homework yet on 2027 quarterbacks. I will soon. And I'll give you an answer and my thoughts on that in the coming shows, because in these coming weeks, we're going to start landing some bigger names and our class will start to take shape a little bit more. So we'll see. We'll see who's out there. It is good to look at those, not this year, but the following, to look 2 years ahead, because that's when quarterbacks start committing. I think it was around last year that Diabell committed, and soon after Darion Coleman. I think it was last July, actually, if I'm not mistaken. So close to a year. John, we want O-linemen who want to hurt people. Bean is nice, but Mario Mirabal model for the O-line. We hurt people, like AEW Wrestling, the Hurt Syndicate. Yep. Nice wrestling reference. I did get that. Muhammad, extend Mario. I said this in December. Yes, and Muhammad, I'm with you. I'm with you, bro. If they even make the ACC title game, I say extend him now, honestly. Because it's not just like the wins and losses. On top of that, it's what he brings to the program, money-wise, support-wise, adding to the facilities, the new like main athletic building or whatever that they're constructing right now. It's Mario brings the wins and losses, the talent, and some of that stuff too. He's a good figurehead and a good like face of the program. So yeah, if they have a solid year, I'm extending him because that price tag goes up every year. I'd rather lock him in now. Garrett's younger brother. Yeah, Colton Nussmeyer. No, I'll look into some of those QB prospects. John, this is an honest question. I understand we have Coleman, but it's possible because of the issues of Tennessee had with Nico, Brandon D committed. Miami tries to flip him. I don't see that happening because I feel like with quarterback, unless that room is just completely bare and you're trying to stack it. We already have Luke Nickel for, as a freshman on the team this year. And then for that cycle for 2026, you have Darion Coleman. The thing is, Darion Coleman, they really believe in him. I believe in Darion Coleman. I love that kid. I love his tape. I love how he's developed over the last year. The only thing he was missing a little bit is size. He's already growing and getting bigger as a player. So I love Darion Coleman, and the coaching staff really believes, a lot like Joel Irvin, that they found kind of a diamond in the rough and they got in on the ground floor with him. So that's their guy for the class. And Darion Coleman is like, he's basically said, not in so many words in interviews, that I'm not going anywhere. I'm sticking. So that's not a guy you're really in danger of losing. So Coleman's your guy. I think he's got a super high ceiling. I think that kid is next level. He's going to continue going up the rankings. Oh, hell no, don't extend him. He'll still have 5 years left on this contract. If it doesn't work out, then we're in an FSU situation. I don't see us ever being in an FSU situation. That I don't see that. The thing with Mario is, and this is what separates us from FSU, is the high school recruiting is better here, and the development of players overall is better here. And so is player retention. I don't know if you've noticed, but how many guys did we lose in the spring portal? A handful of players. How many of them really hurt, if we're being honest? Not many. The one that hurt the most, I'm talking the spring window, not the winter one. Like, obviously, Isaiah Horton was the biggest loss. But aside from that, it's, I can't think of one. Don't compare us to that trash, please and thank you. Yeah, it's not. We're not even in the same ballpark, dude. But yeah, I'm next year or this coming year, 2025, with this tougher schedule. If we can get some big wins, maybe we beat Notre Dame out of the gate. Maybe we win 9 or 10 games. Maybe we get into the ACC championship. If we win it, we're in the playoffs. So absolutely, I am extending him if that happens. Let's see. Pickett, offensive lineman. Oh, are you talking? Yep. Or you're talking? Yep. Cannon Pickett, right? What are you asking about Cannon Pickett? Are you talking about like potential targets? Florida would be a closer comparison. Yeah, but even then, man, I think we have a better situation. Zaquan Patterson, because of his potential, was a big loss. And that was a need that all of a sudden you really had to fill. And we did. We did with Jacoby Thomas. I like who we got. Yeah, Zaquan Patterson was a 5-star recruit. Definitely you had a lot of upside with him. But, had a little maturing to do. And he hit the portal. And I hope things go really well for him. Where did he end up? Was it Oklahoma State? I want to say it was Oklahoma State or Oregon State, one of those two. But I wish him well. But yeah, that was kind of a big loss, because if he stayed and he did pan out, oof. Yeah, Zaquan's got all the talent in the world. John, who's the target at DB outside of Seatbelt Waters? I don't know. Well, I was about to say, I don't know if DB is as much of a focus as it was in the last cycle, but it probably will be. But we'll see. That's another one I'll have to look into. Correct, Oklahoma State. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Dylan Day is a better player than Zaquan. Facts. Maybe right now, but I think Zaquan has a much higher ceiling. Let's see if I missed any questions here. This is just the beginning. Players want to join us. Yes, I agree with that. Rodriguez. Does Rodriguez have eligibility left for 2026? That one I wasn't sure of. That would be great if he does. Jackson Cantwell reminds me of Laramie Tunsil. Yeah, he's drawn some comparisons to Laramie Tunsil. Yeah, a lot of people are comparing to him to Robert Gallery. I don't know if you remember him from back in the day. There's a lot of top linemen you can from over the years that you can compare him to. He's freakish. I remember watching his interview today when like one of the students was interviewing him in that pre-recorded thing before he actually announced. He like was sitting and he had his hands like folded like this on his lap or on his leg or something. And his hands looked like twice the size of mine. Crazy. Both McCoy and Rodriguez have eligibility. Okay. Yeah, that's depth. Rodriguez is a guy that you can, depend on at least like as a rotational guard or something. But yes. Yeah, this is great news. This is great news. Getting the number one player, and it's definitely something Miami can build on. But what we do moving forward the next couple of months, what we do on the field this year, it's going to be big. It's if we can have a solid enough year, which I think we will. It's definitely looking that way. The roster is set up way better than it was last year. It's set up way, way better, especially on defense. If we can have a solid year, then I'm very confident that we finish probably with a top 10, maybe top 7 class, and then just take it from there. And then this thing really gets rolling because I've said for a while now, I think we're like a class or two away from getting to that upper echelon. This could be that class that gets us there because that now Mario will have 4 classes in the top 15, 3 of the 4 being in the top 10. So that now your roster is like where it should be. I'll tell you this before I log off, I'll end with this. So when I went to practice a few weeks ago, me and somebody else went and we looked at each other when we were walking by, like the linebackers were on one side and the O linemen were on the other doing drill. And then they were doing drills against the D line. We're sitting there. We looked at each other and we're like, do you remember when these O linemen, like the biggest guy we had was like 6'3"? And he was like, yeah. And we were like, and then they were huddled up, like, doing whatever. And then they were going out to the field. When they were huddled up as a group, I was like, okay, this is how it's supposed to look size-wise, physically. This is how it's supposed to look, that everyone looks like a freaking giant, that everyone is 6'6", 6'5", 6'7", 6'6", 320, 330 plus. We were lucky if we had one guy like that before. Everyone else was small. Running backs, too small. Linebackers, too small. It doesn't look like that anymore, let me tell you. Do you feel that with Cantwell on the board, does this generate any interest from Pepe, who committed to USC? Yeah. I would say yes. If I'm Mario, and I'm sure he's already on this, if I'm Mario, that is my next target on the offensive line. I'm going for that dude, and I'm thinking what you did a couple of years ago with Maui Noah and Pancake. I'm thinking, okay, 2 years from now, these are my 2 tackles right here. And he definitely hit on one of them. Maui Noah's going probably in the first round this year. So yeah, I'm going after Kenai Pepe next on the offensive line. right. So there are 121 in the chat. I appreciate you guys coming on and helping me celebrate this commitment. It is a great day to be a Hurricane today. And yeah, let's see what happens next. Let's see who jumps in the boat next. I'm excited. May, June, July is when recruiting tends to ramp up, and that 4th of July weekend tends to be a big one for blue chippers announcing commitments. And historically for Miami, it's been a big one for us for landing blue chip commitments. So let's see what happens. But anyways, guys, please, yes, number one, Kane, you said it for me. Hit the like button. Yes, Nikar did come back. But yeah, that is it for me. John, yes, toast to you. I don't have cafecito on me today, but toast to you guys. Please hit that like button and hit the subscribe button. And as always, throw up those U's, go Canes, and I will see you guys next time.